So Google came to our campus for the internship process, and they had a very simple process when during the year that I was to apply for internship. So they gave direct offers to the top three rankers of the department, and since I was one of the top three, so I got an offer without, giving even a single interview or a single written test. But for other students, for my other batchmates, the procedure was the standard procedure that Google follows. The first written test, followed by two or more than that interviews, and most of these internship interviews are telephonic interviews. There are no on-site interviews as such. So I went to Google Hyderabad office, their Hyderabad office, and Google is really a fun place to be at. And since it has been voted as the best places to work at since past 3-4 years, so actually what they have done is they have tried to create an environment in the office where the employees don't actually feel that they are working in an office. It's almost like a college feeling. You almost feel like you are sitting in a classroom with all your friends that they are around. You can get up anytime, go grab a cup of coffee. There are micro kitchens. You can just have anything that you want to have, and you can go play a game of pool and whatever. I mean, it's a really cool environment, and the best thing that I like about the Google is their work culture. So there, everybody has respect for everybody. For example, I was just an intern, so I was not. I was obviously I would expect that the people would behave in a certain way with me. There would be a certain kind of junior-senior relation as it happens in college. But in Google, it was just the opposite. Anytime I needed any kind of help, the person to whom I would go for the help, he would come at my desk and he would literally stand and I would be sitting and he would tell me how to get out of this situation. And I had a really cool mentor as well. He was a Stanford alumni, and that guy was a genius. And my whole project went smooth only because that I had him as a mentor, and he was the perfect guide that I could have in the office. And my project was basically on Google Apps, and it was something related to a backend database that Google Apps maintains. So I had to implement some security feature in that database. So Google has a very transparent PPO process. So even during my 10 weeks internship that I had, I used to have periodic reviews, and some of them were actually visible to me. My mentor used to write some reviews about me, and some of them were visible to me, and some of them were not. And towards the end, I had PPO on interviews. Those were the on-site interviews. They are usually conducted in the last week of the internship, and everybody who was in their final year and who was eligible to appear for these interviews. So Google interviews, they first of all, the most important thing about these interviews is that you have to be prepared. You cannot go into a Google interview just like that. Okay, you search for Google questions, surf for questions on the net. You will find some good questions. Of course, they won't be asked in the interview, but at least you get to know what kind of questions that are asked, and what is the direction that you are expected to think. What is the lines along which you are expected to think. So and another important thing is that you have to be truthful. If they say that just tell us if you have already done this question, tell them. Because if they catch you later, you have just screwed up your interview. And it happened to some of my friends who were giving the PPO interviews. They tried to bluff. They said, okay, we have not done this question. And when they were caught later, so you know that you won't be selected. So the important areas that Google usually asks in its interviews, as the most important is the dynamic programming. Google is very you can say Google asks questions very heavily on dynamic programming. It is one of its niche areas, and it really, and in fact I worked in Google, so I know that most of the algorithms that Google employs, it uses a dynamic programming approach. So that's why it expects its employees to know this, the basics of at least the basics of dynamic programming from the day they join the company. The other area that they ask questions is on data structures. Google, what is Google? Google is managing the world's information. So how do you manage it? It's the information is in billions, or you would say even trillions of documents. So you need to have very efficient data structures to be able to manage this information. So Google expects their prospective employees to know very good basics about data structures, and they would frequently ask some designing problems where they would give you a scenario and they would just ask you to design a data structure that will help you in this scenario. So they ask questions on hash tables, hash maps, they ask questions on binary search trees, they ask questions on heaps, sometimes they even ask questions on binary index trees. So data structures is another important area. Besides, they ask few questions on simple questions on arrays, but whenever they are asking questions on arrays, they are focusing very hard on the complexity of the problems. They want the simple problems to be done in a very efficient way, and if they are asking hard problems, then it's okay that you give a less optimal solution. And another very important area that I encountered during my interviews was the networking. I mean, it's a more or less a theoretical area. You don't have programs that in networking as such, no big algorithms in networking. But I was asked a question during one of my PPO interviews on networking, and I was literally caught off guard, because all through the preparation process I was just doing algorithms, I was just reading up on stuff, and you won't find anywhere on the net written that Google asks questions on networking, and in fact it does ask questions on networking. So that is one other important area. And one thing that you have to make sure that when you are an intern with Google is that Google is very choosy about its interns being converted to employees. Don't view your internship as an easy way or a shortcut to a permanent permanent job in Google. In fact, Google has a very low conversion rate, approximately 40% or even less than that. I have done an internship, and I know only 40% of my friends actually got converted finally, though almost all of them worked really hard. So what are the things that really helped those 40%, or you can say what are the things that helped me and some of my friends who got selected is, first of all, you have to work sincerely there. There are a lot of things to do. You can play PS, you can have loads of food, and I mean there is no restriction, and even your mentor won't pressurize you, or it won't even ask you to do anything. But the thing is, Google believes in self-motivated people. If you are self-motivated, if you are sincere towards your work, it will reflect. And one thing that Google is very particular about is the feedback that it gets about its interns from everybody who is around that intern. For example, I was in a team, so my feedback was not just given by my mentor but my other co-workers as well. I frequently came in contact with 2 or 3 HRs, so even they gave feedback about me. I was interviewed by 2 persons, they gave feedback about me. We had a presentation in our last week about the work that we had to display, the work that we had done during our internship, and we were you can say there were some employees of Google who were doing the rounds and asking the interns what they've done and all. So so the people who asked me about my work, I mean, not everybody could come to every person, so there were 2-3 persons who actually come to my table and ask me what I have done. So even they give feedback about me. It could be anything. I mean, I'm not sure what that feedback was, but in the end, Google will select you if and only if the feedback of each and every person about you is positive. Even if there is one single negative, you have missed the bus. That is as simple as it gets. most of my friends, they did excellent jobs in their internship. They impressed their mentors like anything. They cracked the interviews like anything, but still they were not able to, still they were not able to get jobs. So I think that the only reason was that somewhere some person who came in contact with them gave something negative about them, and that is why they were rejected. So that's about it. And yeah, one thing, if you are actually if you are doing if you get an opportunity to intern at to do an internship with Google, don't forget to be googly.